When did you realize your friends were actually fake friends? Finding out they have an inner circle group chat but I'm the only one not in it. When my phone got stolen and I lost their phone numbers. Mine stayed the same, but we just never talked again. I was invited to the bachelorette party for one of the friends in this group. While at the party, I figured out that I was the only person not invited to the wedding. I had been invited to the party because they needed another person to chip in for expenses. One friend stopped replying to my texts right after we graduated from college. Like the same week we graduated. So, I was pretty much just a study buddy that they kept close to keep me helping them. I wouldn't say I have fake friends, but I am definitely the periphery friend. The majority of the time, if there isn't enough tickets or space in the car for everyone to go do something, I'm the one who gets cut out. It doesn't bother me much, but I wish they would be more mindful when talking to me about things we have done. Remember when we went to see 30? Wasn't that fun? Well, no, because I wasn't invited. In those situations it usually gets awkward, or they say, hey, we would have invited you if we had the tickets, space, etc. After my divorce, we were couples friends, not individually. This was quite a few years ago. My ex and I were really friendly with another couple. Did a ton of stuff together. Then they moved, not far, and fairly shortly after my ex and I separated. They hung out with me for a few months but then stopped calling. A few years later, I ran into both of them at a race, an ultra marathon, and they both pretended like they didn't know me. That was actually a really painful moment. The group made plans to meet and hang out. I was getting ready in the salon. A couple of friends had to back out for some reason. The other friend then made excuses of his own, and I could tell. I tried cajoling him and offer ways for him to go, but he basically decided to cancel the entire group meetup. It was my birthday. When they stopped contacting me when I stopped drinking. When I realized I was the one always calling. Then I stopped and friends disappeared. Once high school ended, I heard about all the rumors they made up about me. I stopped smoking weed and they stopped coming round. Edit, that's a lot to upvotes. I'm sorry so many of you seem to have had similar experiences. You'll make new friends if you haven't already. To the people saying there's nothing wrong with this, then I'd like to respectfully disagree. These were people I considered close friends. It wasn't just some guys and gals I shared a hobby with. Please don't be so quick to judge when you have very little context. Whenever we were supposed to hang out, something came up and that something was hanging out with other mutual friends. When I went through a divorce and was down to $700 bucks, most difficult period, and weeded out all those who friended me for my generosity because I was well settled. Started over and have like 2 true good friends. Edit. Thank you all for your well wishes and wisdom-filled comments. Incredible how sometimes you get more support and well wishes from strangers than folks who led you to believe to be your well wishers. Smile. When they ghosted me after 17 years of close friendship, I still have no idea what I did wrong. And for extra salt in the wound, it was right after I spent a week eating instant noodles because I donated every cent I had to one of them for her cancer treatment GoFundMe. Hurt more than any relationship breakup. Edit, for all those asking, yes, she definitely has cancer. No, she didn't die. And given that it was more than one person who ghosted me and that the cancer friend still maintains an active social life with everyone else but me, it's probably not for reasons related to her ordeal. Like I suspect for a lot of people, getting divorced was a real eye-opener. I started with a core group of close friends who had all met in our late teens/early 20s, and one of them introduced me to the woman who I would ultimately marry. Well into our 40s they were what I considered to be my family, but when the divorce happened things spiraled. My best friend stuck with me, but his wife was the one who orchestrated things in our group, and she was best friends with my ex. I was expecting the two of them to insulate for a while, and I knew it was painful for my ex to be around me, so it was no surprise when I stopped getting invitations to cookouts etc. But then I noticed that the other members of the group were also avoiding/ignoring me. I'd see on Facebook that one of them came into my town to go to a concert for a band that they knew I liked and hadn't so much as texted. Birthdays rolled around and nobody would call. When my parents both died within a few months of each other and not a one of them reached out, I knew where I stood. My best friend needs to get credit though. Alone from all of them, he made a consistent effort to stay in touch and see me regularly. He was there when my parents died and through everything else, even though his wife clearly disapproved. I think finally, after this nonsense had been going on for several years, he told her how ridiculous it all seemed and that entire friend group tried to reconcile. I made it clear right from the start that there was no guarantee that I'd ever find space for them in my life again. This is all very apropos right now because they are having their first big post-COVID party in a couple weeks and I'm invited. People are coming in from all over the country and the only one I give a shit about seeing is my body. When you try to open up and try to share a genuine conversation about something going on in your life and all they can do is crack jokes and try to get you to go out drinking with them, made me realize how surface level many friendships really are. Then you have the opposite of that. 3 guys I've known since I was a freshman in high school, been friends for over 15 years, have stayed in touch through all of us getting married, having kids, and moving to completely separate areas or the country. Yet whenever we're within an hour of each other, we always make a point to get breakfast and catch up. This usually turns into 3-hour conversations. This may only happen once or twice a year, but I consider those guys my best friends. That's real friendship and I'm fortunate to have them. This friend, I'll call her Mary, had kids the same age as mine. We got together for play dates pretty often and our kids would sleep over at each other's houses for weekends. I liked Mary. We would often visit and talk while our kids were playing. One weekend, her kids had stayed at my house. The older one called her mom to see when she was coming to pick her up. I was in the room, and the kid put the phone on speaker for some reason. Mary told the kid what time she would be there and added, "You had better be waiting outside. If I have to go in and spend the next hour talking to Rivitam, I'm going to be really pissed." We didn't spend much time together after that. Edit, I'm getting a lot of similar questions and comments, so I'll add an edit here instead of writing the same answer a dozen times. Did I overreact? Was Mary just having a bad day and not want to talk? And, my personal favorite, Rivitam, maybe you're just insufferable. Here's what happened after I overheard my friend say that to her child. I simply stopped initiating contact and wasn't as available to do stuff for her. When we dropped off or picked up the kids, I smiled and waved. I let the kids make the plans for play dates. I no longer had time to help her with her garden or watch her kids while she went out with another friend. They were into long distance running, which is not my cup of tea. She never contacted me unless she wanted something. This had always been true, but I had not realized it. The friendship eventually fizzled out on its own. So, I guess it had never been much of a friendship to begin with. I just didn't realize it until she opened my eyes. My friends from high school all unfollowed me when I graduated college. I'm the only one who no longer lives in our hometown. When I was in school, all my friends and I did different A-levels. Despite us all having different lessons to each other, they would wait for each other to go to lunch together, but they would always forget me. Like I'd come out and they wouldn't be there, so I'd have lunch by myself. And then they'd come back and tell me they thought I was with them. I was the only one they didn't wait for. I've only seen one of them since we left school. She had forgotten my name, so that sucked. I was at a party, really depressed after a bad breakup and got drunk. My abusive ex showed up, caught me somewhere alone and hit me. I begged several friends for help since I was too drunk to drive home alone and they ignored me. My ex-best friend was there, completely sober and refused to drive home with me because she didn't believe he would do that. There's no Uber or anything in my country BTW. The whole thing escalated. One guy I didn't know ended up finding me alone in a field crying and throwing up, brought me back to the house, built a bed out of blankets for me and sat guard all night to make sure my ex wouldn't do anything again. This was also when I realized who were my friends and who weren't. We were supposed to go to a tour and we save our money and pooled them. Fake friends told me they had to cancel the plan because ticket prices got too high. Told me to wait a few days to get my money back. Real friends asked me why I bailed on them, and were worried that I had an emergency. Turns out my fake friends didn't want me to come and instead would use my money for their booze and told everyone else that I bailed out and took my money back so everyone else would give more for their booze allowance. That friendship ended and I also learned my fake friends were alcoholics and weren't strangers to fucking over people to get what they want. Today one of them is alive. Their alcoholism ruined their lives and some even died from it. When I traded in my truck for a smaller, more eco-friendly vehicle, communication plummeted now that I can't haul furniture around, assist with moving as much, dispose of garbage, etc. I flew out to support a friend going through a messy divorce. While I was there, she left me in the apartment to meet up with her boyfriend that I didn't know about. He turned out to have just been released from prison for manslaughter. Once she told me that, I told her that I didn't want to spend time with him, especially considering the circumstances of my visit. The next night, I woke up in the middle of the night to find him in the living room. She said that she thought it wouldn't matter since I was asleep. The next day, she invited her soon-to-be ex-husband over without telling me and then asked me to meditate their conversation once he got there. That conversation turned ugly fast, and she ended up storming out. He broke down and asked if I thought it was salvageable, and I told him that she had already moved on. Maybe not the best idea on my part, but at that point, she had shown me how vile of a person she is. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Also, leave a comment to suggest what video we should do next. Please check some of our other videos out.